she turned around and she said, but all young girls get raped. And I said, what? The perception she had.
Hola.
What's up?
How are you?
Welcome to another week.
Another one. This week has been very interesting. But first, before we dive into the main conversation, how are you doing?
Let me catch my breath. I'm good.
You're good?
Yes.
Everything, hair on point?
No, I'm kind of like, I'm like, oh my God,
Look like,
it's not looking right.
Look like just threw it on top of, and you're
I
like,
woke up like this.
Okay. No, but it's good. I don't know why you don't like it. I like it.
It doesn't look right, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Moving on.
We can do an AI thing and adjust you.
No.
Yeah.
No. Love me, flaws and all.
There's a woman in parliament who's very annoyed.
Why? What has upset her?
She says the women are there to take the men in.
Okay.
But the men are going to the children.
That's not very nice.
Yeah. And I quote, Justice Minister Princess Kasune has wondered why men are sexually abusing children when women of her size, she did not say age. Not age. The
Women
size.
of her size.
Women of her size are ready to take them in. Then she said there are people at the back who are even agreeing. She was in parliament when she said this. And
I think we've got a clip.
Out there. Why are you doing that to our children when we, your size, we are here? What is wrong with you? We, your size, your age group are here. There are women out there who want the men, but you are busy abusing our children.
I think repeat that one. We didn't hear you.
I'm saying what is happening, Mr. Speaker. We, their age group, are ready to take them in because to the final. Any woman who's 40 and above, she knows she's reaching her final years. And you are raping our children. You are defiling our children when we are here available for you. This is unacceptable, Mr. Speaker, and it is a disgrace, and it speaks to the bottom of the lost values and the principles.
What do you think?
Well, that's why clearly we shared the bloody clip. Okay, it was hilarious and hilarious, and the way she presented it was more focused on the shouting. The context was, I don't know if she wanted to be humorous and whatnot.
Yes.
But I do agree with what she says.
In what sense?
I don't agree with the size. I think she should have said age. Because she says, those of us in our 40s and above, we are on our way out or we're finishing or something.
I know. I was like, girl, you got another 60 years potentially you could still live.
She could go to 100.
Yes.
No, I think
you've
her
only
main
lived 40, of which the first 20 you're really a child. So you've only really lived 20 years as an adult.
I agree. So because of those concerns, Malama and I decided, mostly Malama decided this is something that we should tackle right away. And she's going to give us some insight, some context, and we'll compare what happens generally around the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, but from a Zambian perspective, it's something that's been happening year in, year out. And it's surprising that she would actually come and say it like this, because for me, it speaks to the minimum punishment or the sentencing is not sufficient.
She totally dismissed the key issue, which is the abuse of children.
Yes.
Right? And I think it's also, and you and I discussed this, that what's kind of been overlooked is what is the basis of what we're looking at. And we've discussed how there's different ways of expressing this. Here it's called defilement.
Yes.
In the UK, it would be pedophilia. You would be a pedophile, somebody who is more attracted to children.
Yes.
And then we also discussed that actually, well, there's also what could just be deemed as child abuse.
Sexual
abuse.
Yes.
Yeah. So the way that she's taken it has made it very lighthearted. You know, yes, women of my size, we're here for you. Come, we're here. Why don't you want us? You know? But the reality is they don't want you. That's why they are sleeping with children. And the basis of wanting to sleep with a child isn't because I think I mentioned to you that she's totally missing the fact that some of these men are already married who are sleeping with these young children.
Yes.
You
Some
know?
of them are relatives.
Some of them are relatives.
Yes.
Some of them, if it was an aunt, she knows. If it's a mother, some mothers know.
Well, it's been reported before that some actually take their child to their husband or to their uncle and say, hey, it's your turn, or something like that. There's been many reports in Zambia about this kind of stuff, and the concern of how she presented it was more shouting than hitting the point.
Yes.
Yes, and
Yeah.
you know, you can shout all you like, but
Yeah.
if you say things that don't make sense.
And I know she was, like you said, getting the humor in, but, you know, she was like, you know, it's disgusting. And yes, but like dive into the details of it. What is it that we have an issue with? I'm saying that in a, like, go back to basics.
Yes.
Foundation level. Young children who don't have the power and capability to defend themselves are being taken advantage by adults. And so the laws are there to protect the children.
Yes.
But I think one thing that we maybe are missing here, and this is me being very open in how I see what I've learned about this country, there's a lot of sexual abuse of young children in many households. And if I said to you, and you know I like my fake stats that I make up, I would say maybe 4 out of 10 households, every 10 households, there is some kind of child being taken advantage of by a parent or a relative of some kind, sometimes even workers. So that's why I'm saying I felt like she's really undermined the real message behind this, and she could have made her message much stronger by putting some facts around it. But the humor is what we've picked up on, which is why we've chosen to also talk about it, to add that depth to the conversation she failed to have, you know.
She's a Minister of Justice. She's a Member of Parliament. This is not the first time this thing has come up. So I think before even being colorful in the way she presented it, she could have looked back and figured, what have we done in the past that's still causing this thing to happen? Like I said to you earlier on when we were discussing off camera, in America, they really do embarrass you. They put a poster that says, pedophile lives here. And also, can we have a proper definition of what defilement, child
Yes,
abuse, sexual abuse is, pedophilia?
exactly.
There's a sickness attached to certain people who do this.
Yeah.
So they define it and call it in the appropriate way.
Yes.
Here,
Because defilement can be any age. You
Yes.
can defile at any age, right?
Yeah.
And even like, for example, what's in the nicest way I can put it? Like gay sex could be considered a defilement if it wasn't consensual gay sex, right? So you would still be defiling the other person. So it does, but that doesn't apply to minors. And what we're trying to say is if you're focusing on the minors, the use of one word defilement, which applies to so many things, it maybe does need to be narrowed down. Like in the UK, pedophile is what you get labeled as.
Yes.
And it's specific. This man doesn't just rape, he rapes young children. And then that's what a lot of people get angry about because, you know, like you'll hear a lot of stories in prison where the person who's at the bottom of the totem pole in prison is a child abuser.
Yes.
You know, even in prison they have a hierarchy.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
they-
and at the bottom is men who abuse, especially babies under 3, under 5, that kind of thing, which happens a lot.
it happens, it's happened, it's not new to Zambia. It could be isolated cases, but it's been reported, so it's known. In other countries, it's much more prevalent, like down south, all right? There's issues of, I was reading a story the other day where an 8-year-old was defiled by
A what?
abuse.
80?
8-year-old.
Eight.
808 was abused by the dad because the kid has got cancer. And the witch doctor told him that the
Oh
only
my
way,
dear God, no.
yes, the only way this kid is going to be cured is you start popping her, stuff like that. Yes. So you have all these beliefs. So I think for the presentation made by the minister, there has to be an in-depth way of looking at these things. Okay. Do we have facilities that are able to contain? Do we have appropriate laws that are able to do this? Because I think it's 15 years, the maximum.
The imprisonment? If
Yeah, the
found
minimum.
guilty?
No, the minimum sentence for sexual offenses is 15 years with hard labor.
Okay.
And also, the subordinate courts does not have jurisdiction for sentences that are above 9 years. Therefore, some cases may be referred to the High Court. It's a bloody defilement. Why the heck are you going to take 10 years to sentence somebody? Simple. Some of these things should be done very quickly.
Yeah.
Because the sooner we sort this out, the message goes out there like, don't try. And
Yeah.
also like with our friends, even the mere showing of your organs to a child, that's a violation.
Absolutely.
Yes. Here we don't have that.
Even, I was going to say wanking. I'll say wanking. A man wanking in front of children.
George Michael was caught doing that. Huh?
Well, that's slightly different.
Wasn't George Michael caught?
He was, but there is a place in the UK where people like that used to go, and it was known for that kind of thing.
So you go to this place and like,
So, gosh, you're really taking me back to old stories now. I've forgotten the name of this place, but it was called dogging. That's where that
the
term,
bloody name is dodgy.
dogging.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's where that initially probably started from when the whole doggy style thing came out. I'm really going in a totally different tangent here. But secondly, it was an area where, because you couldn't be openly gay, so it became known as this is where gay men go. And before like we touch each other, like physically do any touching, you would also, like from afar be watching one another and so on and so forth. So that's what he was caught doing. And then there were certain places which had bathrooms, and he got caught in a bathroom by a policeman.
I mean, let's fast forward this. but anyway, yeah. When you look at how she presented it, what were your first thoughts?
I found it humorous. I just felt I was lost in the message she was truly trying to put across. And she made it about her or women, as opposed to the people who suffer, which is the children who are getting taken advantage of. And then I just felt like she missed the mark, which is they're not attracted to you. That's why they're not seeing you in all your fullness,
They think the men who are doing these acts are not attracted to them, the ones who are saying, we're ready to take you in.
As wide as we are,
Our size.
Yes, our size. So I think she missed the mark on that. But again, this is the problem when you watch clips. Maybe she did dive into it before or after, we don't know. But from the clip I saw, it just missed the mark, and it made it about her. It's her, social media moment.
But she was nicely dressed, though.
Was she?
She was.
Now, what did you notice about the dress?
The colors were nice. The colors were nice.
I did notice what I think you noticed.
Hell no! You need exorcism.
Me?
Yes.
You're the one who thinks she looks nice.
You need to be exorcised.
Oh,
But here's a response from a gentleman called Boniface Perry from Facebook. And he says, to end this, you're going to dive into this. To end this is what
being
the same issue regarding defilement, child abuse and whatnot. He says, to end this, please, parents, learn to teach your children, because...
To teach them what?
Let me finish. I'm just reading what he says. It's not even my English. It's not my handwriting. Okay? To end this, please, parents, learn to teach your children, because the way children are dressing is the one cause of this mess in our country. Government should put in place social measures. Yeah. This is his thinking.
Blame the victim.
Yeah.
It's your fault I raped you because you're wearing that skirt. Come on now. Who made you look at her?
Boniface Perry.
Why would you look at her in a sexual manner? That's the problem. Why would a piece of clothing make you look at her in a sexual manner?
You are saying that the dressing should not be the cause of the action by the perpetrator.
Yes.
100% agreed. But what about the thinking that government should put in place social measures? Why would we think like that? Is it a government kind of a thing, or is it the mindset of the Zambian in general?
Again, it's, I think, a Zambian mentality of let someone else solve the problem, you know, and let government deal with it. No, government puts in, as any government around the world does, you have rules and regulations to keep the nation at a level of control, right? So to stop people stealing, you go to jail, you have a term, and so on and so forth. But also, if you were to rape a child, you have a term sentence that you have. And it needs to be understood. So exactly, if I rape this child, what is the impact to me? And in Zambia, it feels like it's not probably well known. How long would you get if you rape a child?
Minimum 15 years, according to reports I just read. I think
Yeah.
I told you earlier that the minimum is 15 years. Do you think that's sufficient? That's minimum.
I mean, again, it's down to how much this impacts you, or how abusive you were. You know, that you could have I say this in the nicest way, you could have a simple rape, or let me finish
Say it nicely. Say it the right way. Talk about simple rape.
you could have a rape.
Rape is rape.
Okay, but what I was going into was there have been cases where I've heard about people putting things into young children.
Yes.
So, and you know, whether it's a piece of metal. My point was like, yes, okay, the sexual abuse can be just a penetration. Maybe let me say that. Penetration by just the penis. But then when you start to do penetration with other things, tools or other items, it can become a worse type of sexual abuse. So there, the term you would expect to be longer. Or if someone has not just raped one person, but 5 or 10 or 50, right? That person's sentence should then be longer, and so on. So they have reasons why they've created a minimum term and what it defines and so on, but then it's what then determines the maximum as well, which is what I don't know what happens
I don't know,
here.
it's not stated.
I feel like here it's like you raped one time and it's just the one time that we care about. Nobody bothers to investigate, well, how many rapes has this person actually done? As far as I know, the person with the most child abuse convictions is an Australian who raped 300 children. And he lived near a school, and he would play a guitar outside the school to, you know, sweet talk the kids. He worked with children, so he had easy access to children. So, but there you can see there was a specific desire that he was living out. Here it feels like, oh, it's just a one-time thing, you know, and even if a young girl comes to her aunt or her mother or sister or whatever, it gets dismissed.
Yes.
And that's the other bit that we don't look at. And then it's just assumed that, well, if I'm dismissing you, well, then I'm probably dismissing the 500 women that potentially this man has also tried to or has had sex with.
So what do you think about women who will tell the child, who reports the uncle or the father, that, look, for instance, this is an orphan they've taken in, and the mother, the aunt, whoever it is, that's the guardian, the female side of it, says, this is the person who's protecting us, who's taken you in. And they run along. Don't you think the sentence should be also meted on them?
I would love to think, so like a co-conspirator.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't even think that's considered here. It's not even barely considered. And you can imagine while that man is being arrested, she's even crying, you did what? To my you wanna. She's totally ignoring that she was also part and parcel of all that.
Complicit.
Uh-huh.
Penny Chilumanda Nkalamo. She's a nice name. Chilumanda Lioness. Kwenana mayo ala chula pachalo, especially where poverty and sexual perversion is concerned. It is now emotionally draining to give birth to a girl child because her safety and worth are undermined by the status quo. It is a man's world. Your comment.
It's not just girls. Young boys also get sexually abused. Yeah. So whether you give birth to a girl or a boy. But again, that sounds a little bit victimhood. You know, woe is me, I'm a woman, you know.
Yeah.
I'm birthing a woman and oh, it's so hard for us. Okay, yes it is, but it's how you stand up for when things go wrong. It's not about just saying because everything is fucked in the world and I shouldn't have children. No, you have to make sure that if you have a child, that all those things to cater and look after the child are in place, which is why we want to have harsh sentences against people who do anything against children. You know, you'll never, I'm sorry, but you will never stop murder, abuse, what. Just
Crime in
like
general.
we can't stop war, you know. The aim is to minimize, to be aware, and to prevent wherever possible. So if a child does come to you and say, Auntie, Uncle keeps touching me,
Yeah.
don't dismiss the child, please. And this is part of the problem because children do confide in someone.
Yeah.
But in the end, they're always let down by whoever that person is because that person doesn't know how to do anything because now it's on them. You've made this my responsibility. But me, I like Uncle. He's also looking after me, so I'm not going to say anything. And then it becomes wabu fimwano. Alakala be paka.
Let's focus in on poverty and sexual perversion regarding the issue of kalabe paka. When the woman is not as capacitated and she's just in the marriage because of the love and whatnot, there are women who are just into the relationship the way it is. Nothing like housewives, for instance. They don't do anything else other than wait for the husband to bring the bread.
That's just complicit, as you said. You know, if you're going to be complicit, then it's between you and God when you die. You know, are you ready for that? You know, that is somebody who, probably in some ways, has also been victimized or abused. You know, you have to kind of consider these things. It's never just one level. There's always levels underneath as well. And probably it had happened to her. I'll tell you something that someone said to me. Young lady who had got sexually abused by some young boys. And I'm trying not to say too much because I don't want to put across who this was, but she basically found the confidence to say that, you know, this happened to me. Two young men, you know, persuaded her to have sex with them. And so this isn't pedophilia or anything like that. They were all more or less the same age group, but she wasn't necessarily that consenting. But when I said something to her, she turned around and she said, but all young girls get raped. And I said, what? The perception she had was it's a rite of passage for young girls. They always get raped. It's what happens. And that's the problem. So when your auntie or your mother is complicit, it's because she believes it's a rite of passage. It happened to me. It happened to my sister. It happened to my mother.
That's how I grew up.
Exactly.
In Malawi, they've got a guy called the hyena. Families take their children to pop the cherry.
What?
They call him the hyena. I will look him up. They take their kids, the girls, the female
Why
child
do
to
you
him
want someone else
to go pop the cherry. But
Why?
I think he even is sick or something. But they take the kids. So
Wait, why?
traditional beliefs.
And then when he does that, then what? She's ready for what? She's prepared
ready.
for who?
Ready. Huh? I think they call him the hyena. There was a big story about him. But while you're marinating on that, I think 2005 or 2006, Sister D, a Zambian musician, sang about men being castrated. Whoever is going to defile, sexually abuse
A Zambian
child.
person, did you
Zambian,
say?
yeah. Her song was Vitendeni, castrate them. What are your comments about that? There's even a paper about it, imagine.
I mean,
As in sentencing, instead of the 15 years,
Yes.
25 years, it's like,
well, and,
forget that.
And
Yeah, so
that's my view then. You
Clip.
know? Yeah. If again we were talking about prison being a deterrent, right? To stop you doing such things. Like, you know, the reason we don't murder is because there is the deterrent to go to jail. So the same thing, if you want a deterrent that's going to be effective, castrate him.
So there's a paper which was
Has anyone ever been castrated? Do any nations actually have, because you know, like the Muslims, you cut off the limbs if they steal.
whichever offending body part.
Yes, yes.
Well, the Muslims are serious with these things. The deterrent for them works better than, it's a better preventive way than. 'Cause
Yes.
Now, the only thing is, there has to be the other victim to make sure you are the one in the wrong. But the University of Zambia, based on the song done by Sister D, have done a paper. The paper was written by these names, my God. Hambaba, Jemima, it's Jemima, so I know how to spell Jemima. This is not Jemima. And Naomi Njovu. And I'll just read the first sentence. In exploring agency and phenomenology in the fight against child abuse and molestation, we turn to Sister D's Vitendeni, zooming in on two interrelated aspects of semiotics, diction and symbolism.
Why did you pick that sentence to start with? Because none of that makes sense.
The
Ajani? Symbolism, what?
interrelated aspects of semiotics, diction and symbolism.
I have no idea what that sentence means.
Vitendeni mixes diction and symbolism to provide
Diction and
I'll just say commentary, awareness, and prescribes the punitive measures to end the scourge of encapsulated in the song title. University of Zambia. Yeah, but her general sentiment is clip them. And why can't we do that? What do you feel about that? You clip and you sentence?
I believe so.
We believe so.
I think so. Again, it's about deterrence, you know. I think one of the things that obviously we're focusing very much on the person who has done the act.
Yeah.
But what we don't focus on is the impact of the person it's been done to. And when you have a young girl as 7 years old, you know, raped or sexually abused by someone, what does that child become later in life? You know, it does stain you. It does traumatize you. And then what then becomes of you? So you have to be someone who tries your best to not live up to that. But sometimes you also become that, don't you? You become an abuser as well because it's all you know, especially when people live through it. You know, like if for 5 years your uncle has lived with your family and he sexually abused you for 5 years, that's the love you learn to seek out later in life.
How do you feel about how tradition impacts this?
Tradition?
Yes.
Which part of tradition?
Child marriage, for instance, and also youngsters just not having the right to stand for themselves. Because tradition dictates that this is the way to go. Like, I'm looking for the hyena story, the Malawi hyena story.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, but it's the same thing that I was saying. If you end up in a situation where you're abused, we learn how to love through our young years. And so when somebody abuses you, in effect, that's the love that you learn. So later on, the likelihood is you'll end up with someone who abuses you anyway, because that's the style of love you understand.
Yes. So
very few people will act like, no, this is not how, but when there's a book called oh gosh, I've forgotten what it's called, People We're Attracted To. Mm-hmm. And it basically it's focused on relationships and the type of relationships that we have, but then it basically explains that the reason you like a certain type of person. So for example, you know, like you'll hear a woman going, I like the bad boys, mm-hmm. you know, and the minute that person dates a good guy, they're like, he's so boring.
Soft.
Yeah, there's nothing there. The likelihood is she came from some kind of a family that was probably, they shouted a lot, very aggressive. You know, you might have had a father who was, you know, stealing, whatever.
Yeah.
You understand that lifestyle. So that's what you've learned, is how a man should be in your life. And so you then perpetrate that in your life. But you think you're looking at it in a different way, but actually it's just the love that you learned. So the likelihood is when you've been abused, of course, you know, like you go through the trauma and everything, but when you now have to find love, it's very difficult to know how to judge what real love looks like.
Yes, I found the story of the hyenas. The issue we're talking about is the background of where you come from influencing your future. Like Ma Baker and her kids, her sons became robbers, you know what I mean? Stuff like that.
Ma Baker.
Ma Baker.
You gone all the way there.
Yes.
Jesus.
Yes.
Does Nate even know who Ma Baker is?
You're gonna school him later.
Don't say that.
But
people get suspicious
school.
about what I do with Nate.
I didn't say. Let me be nasty. I didn't say screw him. I said school him. Nate is our young man, so
Listen.
we're growing and learning things together. So no, he's in safe hands. But this man called Eric Aniva, the then 40-year-old, said he had sex with more than 100 girls and women, that he was paid to do so by members of their communities in the southern province of Malawi. And this was, guess what? Culturally sanctioned form of ritual sexual cleansing.
Cleansing?
Yes.
What? I don't understand.
Remember,
You're
I talked
cleansing
about.
for what?
Remember, I talked about culture being a factor.
Yeah.
How
But
does
I'm
it impact
trying
this?
to understand. If you use the term cleansing, what are you doing? You're cleansing her of what? Are we assuming she's already had sexual encounters and he's cleansing her of them?
I don't know why they were taking. Maybe he was like really good
At what?
at whatever he does.
Listen.
Because I mean, why would you
Then
pay
he can
somebody?
cleanse me anytime.
Oh, hell no. Oh, man.
I mean, if he's good at it, you know.
Aniva told BBC he was HIV positive and had not disclosed this information to the families who
wow.
hired him. He is one of the 10 hyenas in Zambia district where he lives and is paid from $4 to $7 each time.
Okay, I mean, he's just a prostitute, but, you know. I don't know what you're paying him for. I'm trying to understand that side of it.
Some girls were as young as 12 years old. I think it's, there's a big story about him breaking their virginity and stuff like that.
Yes, but I'm not understanding why. Why does a parent want to take their child to this man to break the child's virginity? What's the benefit?
Catfish.
Okay, story.
According to Stewart, the practice is viewed as a way to ritually cleanse girls after their first period, usually within a 3-day window. Some families tell girls they will get infections if they don't have sex with a hyena, says Stewart. Does that answer your question? It's not my handwriting.
That was a man that came up with that idea.
No, I don't know whoever it is, but this hyena. Would the hyena use condoms?
Well, no, it goes against the whole point of
Unprotected
the origins.
sex, the answer is unprotected sex is considered part of the ritual.
Was he ever
He's been arrested.
prosecuted in any way?
Yeah. Because clearly somebody reported this. So.
But was it him perpetuating this, or it's from the parents who are?
It's the region where it comes from. They practice it in Msanje, and also it means that the parents knew of him, or this practice was not only done by him. There were like 10 of them, 10 hyenas, but he's like the most prominent one, especially because there was disclosure of HIV afterwards. Sure. I suspect one of the victims, one of the participants, eventually got sick, and it was.
Yeah, but I mean, also the problem with that, slightly, don't forget, is we also had a huge epidemic of AIDS, and some children were born with AIDS as well. So not necessarily that he would have given it to them, but actually we also had children being born with it. So it works both ways.
So it was like 2016. So there were some women who testified against him because the president that time had ordered his arrest when the story broke.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he apparently.
But what about arresting the parents?
But we talked about the complicity.
But that's what I'm saying. In that
of
sense,
the whole thing.
that story
No,
is
they don't
focused on
disclose
him.
that. They don't disclose that. But
Yeah.
yeah, it would have been, and it was done by the BBC. So clearly, they're normally thorough when it comes to something that would taint Africa. They will go deep into it. Yeah. So that's what happened. Coming back to our main topic, the reason why talking about defilement, abuse, and why women above 40 are ready to be taken in, to take in the brothers. What would you think should have been the best way the minister and MP would have handled
There's no best
or
way.
rolled out that message?
No. There's no best way. There's just another way, and that's what she's done. You know, there's no best way. She has highlighted a topic, and she's highlighted it in her way, and it brings it back out in the foreground so we can talk about it. What you would hope is that her exposing this message, us talking about it, it being talked about in general, some child who is suffering somewhere finds the confidence to say, Auntie, but my blah blah, someone has been doing X, Y, Z to me. So that's what we really want is the message. It's not about this woman. It's about making sure that anyone who is suffering comes forward and says something in the hope that they can stop this.
I have a very big concern because Zambia claims to be a Christian nation. Okay, you know I don't buy into that. I'm Catholic.
No,
I'm
I
not,
don't.
But the biggest problem I have with general life in Zambia is culture and tradition. The dictates of culture and tradition. They come
And
into their way.
religion.
Yeah, they come into their way. Actually, religion falls third or second from these two because the issue of what we normally would do out of tradition supersedes what is logical.
Yes.
Yes. So the issue of you reporting to an aunt, an uncle, or somebody becomes a bit of how do I now go and break down this thing?
It's having the confidence. I think, so for example, in the UK, you know, whenever you have discussions about sexual abuse or suicide or rape or whatever, there's always at the end of the episode of whatever you're watching, it says, if you have experienced these things and need someone to talk to in confidence, call this number. And maybe it's about expanding this and saying, it's not about just highlighting it, it's what's my avenue. If this has happened to me, where do I go to get this message out? There should be a police number of some kind where someone can phone and say, this has been happening to me, I don't know what to do. Even like you're not supposed to have the answer as the child or the person reporting, but you should have the option to be able to report it. And that's what we probably actually could do with establishing. Not just saying, look at me, I'm your size, you come to me instead. No, if you're also suffering, if you've been abused and you want to find a way out of it, how can you do that?
The kids have got challenges reporting their parents. Because
You're missing the point.
No, I hear you 100%. I agree with you. One of the studies they've conducted is that kids have a problem reporting their parents. In communities have that problem.
Because historically, it's a verbal communication. Let me tell you, in the UK, do you know if you go to the UK and you take your family, right? And your kids start talking to, this is a story that happened and I'm just using you as an example. Your kids. Okay, Nate has children, right? Nate moves to the UK.
Yeah.
Nate moves to the UK.
Yeah.
And then his children go to a school. And he says, yeah, the child goes, yeah, my dad beats me. We have child abuse lines that the friends will phone for Nate. And then the police, the social services, medical places
Everybody
will come to your house. And they will say, this has been reported. We're here to investigate.
Yeah.
So the point I'm trying to make here is, of course, if it's just a young girl in Matero who says to her aunt, Daddy keeps doing this to me. And her aunt says, Iwe kalafi tondolo, right? Of course, that won't get anywhere. But if that child can pick up a phone, go to a TikTok channel, ask for help,
Yeah.
then that's how you give them an avenue. they need people who support them. And there's a lot of people out there who do support people who are in need, and like people who've been through something and they become advocates. They're the ones who are trying to help people who've been through these things as well. So those things exist. We are just having this topic for the very first time. It's not like we know anything about this. But if anyone has any information, if you are a supporter of child abuse victims and you want to share your message, let us know, and we'll use the small platform that we have to be able to expose this. If you're a child who's going through something, let us know, and we'll see where we can offer support and help.
Well, actually, come and talk to us. Come and talk with us, isn't it?
Yeah, if that's what you want. I mean, we're talking about different positions. If you've grown and you've done something and you've been through the process, yes. But I'm talking about if yesterday your uncle penetrated you and you feel so like you're so weak and you don't know who to turn to and who to ask for help and support, then that's what I'm saying. If you can reach out in this way, then use this platform as well.
One other thing before we wrap up this subject is, do you think there's enough training behind the whole issue regarding reporting, counseling, and
Training
prevention?
for who?
The people that receive the calls. Do we have enough support?
I don't know. I'll be honest. I've never seen
You've never seen this?
I couldn't even tell you if I was to be raped. Good
Yeah.
luck with that.
My example of it.
But if I was to be raped today, I wouldn't even know what to really do here in this country. In the UK, I know. Here, I don't know what I would have to do.
So they say if you are violated,
I
in
would go to
Zambia-
the police station and be, Madam Imwe, you were raped. You were doing the raping, you.
I would agree with them. 100% I will agree with them. But for people who live in the UK, if you're violated in any country and you get back, you report that.
Yeah.
And they also take it up.
Yes.
Because I think there's a tendency.
It's treated with utmost respect.
Yeah.
There is no lie. Anyone who, even if you're lying, but anyone who does report something, you're treated with the utmost respect and your investigation is carried out.
All right. We wrap it up then.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you think we can give her credit for at least bringing it out?
Exposing the topic,
Exposing it out.
bringing it to light, absolutely. And we do need to talk about it more because it still goes on in homes.
Princess Kasune, you are the Justice Minister. Revise, change, overhaul the system if you think it's not adequate. You are in a position of authority, a position of power. Get as many people on board as possible. You will get support from the right people. Consider the fact that tradition is in the way of assisting the victims. No, not even assisting the victims, being against the systems. Talk to traditional leaders, consult the communities, and just hit it straight face on, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. With that, Mina, peace.
Out.